Yeah, I know. That's true, actually.
This is all this is, just keeping it as a backup,
Hmm.
because no one actually listens to it live. Hello, welcome to episode 23 of Soggy Popcorn. Here with me, as always, is Si.
Hey, how's it going? It's my radio voice.
Never, never leaves. He's stuck in the corner of a studio somewhere.
Always sleeping, waiting for you to wake me up
Yeah,
to do this podcast.
just wasting times.
Yeah.
The film, master. Um, Please inject me with the USB stick. So yeah,
In my
we're going to
bum.
talk about the main things we're going to be discussing is Civil War, because we both watched it together, hand in hand.
Avengers Civil War, not just general Civil
We
Wars, but
watched a Civil War reenactment.
yeah, not Avengers Civil War. It's not even Avengers Civil War. It just feels like it is.
Oh yeah, true.
Captain
Captain
America,
America,
Captain America, the sequel, Civil War.
the trilogy. And also, I got a chance to speak to the director of a film called The Call Up. So I'll be speaking. You'll get to listen to some of that. So I wouldn't have heard it.
You spoke to someone who wasn't me.
Exactly.
Wait a minute. I didn't think we were. I didn't think we were allowed to do that.
I'm slowly gonna ease you out of this podcast.
So you and that guy are starting your own podcast, though.
Yeah, we've just started up this thing. No, he was a nice guy, Charles Barker. Charles Barker, his name is. So yeah, you'll be able to catch some of that, and I'll chat about that as well. And we're also going to talk about 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah.
We've got a whole bunch of other stuff we also need to catch up on, but we haven't got time today. We'll do it for another one. So let's start with Civil War. So what were three things you liked and three things you hated?
Well, let's give it a quick intro. I mean, everybody knows what the hell it's about, but just in case they don't, it's set after the Captain America Winter Soldier, isn't it? And it's directed by the same two brothers, the Russo brothers, isn't it?
Yeah, who started off in British TV actually, and then did a load of episodes of Community. Yeah.
What did they do? The Bill.
You know what? I think it was something like that. If it's worth, it's something really like not reality TV, but something really like Birds of a Feather or something. I don't know. Something stupid like that. You keep saying, "Oh, I'll just."
But they're not.
Look it up.
They're British. They're not British, are they?
Well, I think so. Well, maybe they're not British, but I'm pretty sure.
Show them
They definitely did a bit of British TV.
But yeah, same two brothers, same directors as Captain America Winter Soldier, and then this is set. Well, the whole Avengers Marvel Universe timeline starts to get more complicated every year. But this is set after the events of Avengers 2 Age of Ultron, where if fans of the Marvel Universe films remember at the end of that, a few of the Avengers kind of separated and went off their own way and agreed to let's just do our own thing. So Iron Man went off to invent some new crazy technology, and Thor went back to wherever the hell he's from, Asgard or wherever the hell it is. And then Captain America went off to look for his old bum chum, Bucky, didn't he, at the end of the previous film. So where we pick up from this film, he is still chasing Bucky down, isn't he? Mm-hmm. His friend from back in the Second World War. Is it First or Second World War?
Second, isn't it?
Second World War. Let's just say, for argument's sake, Second World War. So he's tracking down his old bum chum Bucky, and somebody has. How the hell? What was the beginning of the film again? He blew up. What did he do?
I can't remember. The very beginning.
The very beginning of it. Yeah. How the whole thing starts. Well, basically, someone's blowing stuff up, and they blame and the Bucky guy.
Oh yeah. They chase. It's the military guy who's in Winter Soldier, and his face is all fucked.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, and then they like destroy a building, and everyone's like, "These Avengers need to be put in place."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So they blame it on that Bucky has been he's kind of been, well, I don't want to give it away or anything, but people think that he's blown up. It was a government building, right? So Captain America goes off to find him, and then yeah, this whole big debate starts to unfold about whether or not the Avengers should have the autonomy that they do and just fly around the world saving the people they want to save. Because in the that they basically in the previous Avengers films, they've caused so much collateral damage that people are now starting to complain about the deaths of the civilians that are caused around, the big battles they have, which is funny because when you start watching these films, especially a few years ago, you start to laugh at all the buildings that are falling down and think, how many people in those buildings are actually dying, and it seems to be a complete something that is completely irrelevant and never spoken about. But now it seems a bit of a trend in the this new stage of Marvel films that collateral damage and all these people that were killed along the way are starting to speak up and say, oh, you're causing more damage than you're actually fixing things. So it's similar to Batman vs Superman, of a similar thing. So then the government starts saying that the Avengers need to be contained, and they need to have control of the what
Well,
was
it's
it? Not
like
the
who's
government,
going
is
to
it?
watch
It's
the
the
Watchmen kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So they need to have some sort of, they can't just have like free reign to do whatever the hell they want. So the government basically say, you guys need to, or we need to give you guys permission whenever you're going to go out
yeah, it needs to, you
to
need to run it by UN.
yeah, it's the UN, wasn't it? The United Nations. So, and that's basically the crux of it, because that's where the friction between Captain America and
Iron Man.
Iron Man, Mr. Tony Stark, that's where it all begins. Because pretty much there's all the Avengers sitting around. They say the UN needs to give you permission to whenever you're going to go off and act, and try and save people, or fight, get into some sort of battle. And basically Captain America is all about, no, these are, we can't abide by these rules. We should be able to do whatever the hell we want, and we can't have the government telling us what to do. And then Downey Jr., his conscience is finally, after all these films, getting the better of him, and they're saying he thinks that, look, we need to sign this agreement because things are getting out of control. And that's where the split happens, and then different characters go on different sides, and that's when all the friction and everything starts to fall apart. So that's basically the premise of it. And at the same time, there's all this whole buddy thing between Bucky and Captain America, which is pretty lame, really. But it's all really about causing friction and starting to see this big divide in the Avengers, which is gonna, which is a huge part of the comic books, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was based on a run of the comics that it's probably about, I want to say like 12 years, maybe it's early 2000s, something like that. That came and went, and they actually visualized one of the covers, a very famous cover of Iron Man blasting against Captain America's shield. They actually staged that in one of the shots near the end of the film, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, well, what did you think?
I quite liked it. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't have massive expectations for it. I liked Winter Soldier quite a lot, actually. So I thought, you know what, this is it's the same directors. I thought it was going to be fun, but I didn't know that had we got to a point where there's just so much studio interference with these Marvel films that all it's really going to be doing is just to serve the next plot line in trying to build towards this big Infinity War, and try to split some characters up, but also just introduce loads of new characters and just quickly shoehorn them all in. So then the Marvel universe grows really quickly, so then they can expand to these massive stories. So I was wondering if it might just be a bit of a bridge, but no, I think it holds its own. I thought it was really good, actually. I thought some of the action was really good. I thought that some of the characters in there were a little bit wasted and were a little bit for second thought, but given the runtime they had, and given the amount of plot and character stuff they had to develop before they actually did pretty well. So I was pleasantly surprised by it.
Yeah,
How
I
about you?
might say that this was probably my favorite of the um, kind of Marvel. Is it my favorite Marvel film? It might be. It's
Really?
up there. Well, yeah, because it's I really like the first Avengers film, but seeing
Mm.
as I haven't really enjoyed a Marvel film for a while now as much as I enjoyed that. So that's really kind of uh, like, got me going on it again. I mean, the things that I liked about it. I mean, I loved there's a particularly big battle scene at the airport, which happens about halfway
Yeah.
through, where it's just a massive battle royale thing, and
Mm.
yeah, that entire scene was just great. That was just pure fanboy
Yeah.
geekgasming everywhere. Um,
And the whole thing was just that was it was all balancing on that really, wasn't it? Because everyone knew that was going to happen, and the whole build up towards that big battle was all the trailers and all of the promotion for the film. So you knew the whole thing was going to center around that, and yeah, I think they really delivered
yeah,
in that
I
battle.
should
There
say,
was
yeah.
yeah, go
So
on. No, no, I was about to say they balanced it really well. There was humor in that battle. There was there's actually some emotion, and there was this huge set piece, but it was quite contained, wasn't it?
yeah,
It was quite cool that it was in like a
abandoned airport or something.
yeah, it's like an abandoned cargo freighting arena, like almost in a computer game, rather than in a city center or downtown LA where buildings are going to get smashed and people are going to get in the way and they're going to be throwing cars at each other. Even though they do kind of throw lorries and stuff at each other, but yeah, it's abandoned. It's just those. There's no one else around. I think that was a really good choice to have it quite contained. That they could really concentrate on some of the developments happening within the fight, but also a little bit of humor and some massive set pieces. So I thought it worked really well.
Yeah. I should say as well, the Russo brothers are American and they haven't done
Right.
British TV. I don't know where the hell I got that from. I definitely got it from somewhere, so I'm just trying to think who it was. But they did do Community, and they
Right.
did Arrested
Yeah.
Development as well.
How did
But
they? Okay.
there's definitely like someone in the Marvel world who
Yeah.
came from
His directed the
British
film.
TV. I don't know. Or maybe it's one of the Star Wars. Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Another thing I liked about it was Spider-Man. I thought he was.
Yeah. What do you
I
think?
I really liked him, I went away thinking that I liked him more afterwards when I thought back to it. Than maybe I did at the
Yeah.
time. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Marvel officially do with him when he gets his own film next year. Homecoming, I believe it's called. Yeah.
Homecoming. Oh man, that's a lame
He's coming
title.
home. He's coming home to Marvel. Watch out.
Yeah, but is that just a working title? It's actually going to be called Spider-Man
Mhm.
Homecoming.
2017, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Like, well, they'll change it surely. It'll be Spider-Man: The Beginning again, or Spider-Man is Born, or some crap.
They've got to.
Um,
I know we spoke about this after the thing, but they've got to not do an origin story. They've just got to kind of
I know, I
get on
know.
with it and just do it from where it's happened now. He's just done Civil War.
The,
He's kind of taken it to the next level.
yeah,
Let's just get on with it.
the problem is when these writers and these guys developing these films, like, well, do they serve the people who have seen all these films, basically fans? Do they like serve the fans and they think, okay, these guys know how the character's been developed. They already know his origin story. Let's just like give them a running start, throw them in, and give them a pretty cool story with some new bad guys? Or do they cash in and they aim it towards the next generation of kids who haven't seen the older Spider-Man films? That's the problem. So that's when
It's
they're
like
always
the last
pressurized.
one wasn't even that long ago.
I
And I
know.
don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I know it wasn't. No, I know, but they've already done two of those, haven't they?
And shit.
Um, yeah, but they were Sony, weren't they? But hopefully they don't. I mean, they've kind of like covered his origin really in that. That's what I quite liked about it. They skimmed it over quite quickly, and it was it was weird. It was like filming the Spider-Man scenes were. It's almost like had already written the script and they'd already fleshed out everything. They'd already started shooting it, and they're like, "Shit, okay, we actually got the rights to Spider-Man, so we have to go back and think about how to fit him in it." Because he was only really in the scene where he joined in
Yeah.
like a small apartment, and then the big battle.
Yeah.
Um, but he played a good part in that big battle. I thought he was just going to turn up at the end and then just like spin some webs and jump around, and that would be it. And then he was just going to like swing away, and it'd be like, "Oh yeah, that was Spider-Man, by the way. We'll see more of him later." But I thought he was really good actually. And he was funny, but he was also a kid, and he was
Yeah.
like he was having fun. It was like,
Yeah.
does he really know this is quite serious? But he, you know, at points does take it quite serious, and he tries to hold his own against some of the bigger boys, but he just kind of gets smashed down a bit.
Yeah, I mean that's the main thing. Like with Spider-Man, this is kind of going off on a Spider-Man chat, but
Mm.
is that they make it because in the comics he's very like he's a bit cocky and all this stuff
Yeah,
and funny. They in the previous films, they make it that he's a bit arrogant, cocky, like a bit of a dick. Like, hey, I'm a superhero now, and now I'm really cool, and I've got a mask on, so I could be really cool. Whereas he's not like that. And Tom
yeah,
Holland's one is more, as you said, um, he's a kid. He's not being like cocky, like I'm really super confident in myself suddenly all of a sudden. It's more just
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I don't know, like I'm just a kid, like what's up kind of thing.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Well, that's the way it should be, shouldn't
yeah,
it?
it's definitely at this
You
stage
know.
where he's like young rather than like the old Peter Parker where everything's just fucked him up and he's just this
Yeah.
um,
Well, the whole
shadow.
point is that yeah, he's young and he's small and he's agile and he's acrobatic. He doesn't need to be big and muscular, um, because that's not, that's not to his advantage, is it?
Yeah,
And he has basically, like a lot of them, he has super strength anyway. So why does he need to be like big and grown up? So I think it's more fun if he's going to be the kid. Also, the, a lot of the characters are starting to age as well, and the actors. So it's good to have a bit of fresh blood in there.
yeah,
Um, Downey Jr. isn't getting younger. A lot of these guys, this is like sort of their fourth or fifth Marvel film, so they needed new blood, and I think they did pretty well in introducing Spider-Man as casually as they did, but also had to have a big impact. Um, Much pressure with introducing such a big character like that, or such a iconic character. And yeah, and for the things I liked, so I was similar actually. I liked the battle in the middle. I liked even though some of the story about the kind of framing this person and the blowing this up and the government stuff was kind of a little bit shallow because it was all really just to get to this point where they were just having kind of friction and fight each other. I did quite like the gradual, like uh, the the kind of gradual decline of the Avengers, the way they started splitting up. I didn't think it was just sudden. I thought it was quite believable that Downey Jr. would find himself responsible for the whole Ultron thing and that Sokovia place. He basically blew it up and loads of people died. And then how Captain America feels that he can rely on his own judgment. He doesn't need the government to tell him what to do. And I thought it was quite believable. So I liked the build up towards the split. But talking of new characters, I liked Black Panther. I liked the way he was introduced. I thought they
yeah,
did a pretty good job with him because that could have been easily kind of camp and a bit weird and lame compared to the other characters, and it could have been quite forced. But he played a surprisingly big part in the film, and I thought they handled that really well. Actually,
yeah.
what do you think about him?
Yeah, he was good. They paid him enough time. I mean, one of
Mm,
the things that I didn't like about it is that, well, the thing is, and with a lot of these films, is that there's just a real danger, a constant danger of just being completely overwhelmed.
yeah,
They're trying to squeeze in so many things and pay so much attention to different people, and I'm a little bit like, surely this is like the maximum it can go to in terms of squeezing in so many characters into one
mm.
thing without it being well, I mean, the next thing is Infinity War and Gauntlet and all that, which is just everyone just kind of getting involved.
Yeah, I know that. How they can do that? Surely that's going to be in several different parts.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, they're definitely going to do it in two films, but I don't know what,
Yeah,
and that's kind of throwing everything against the wall, but I don't know what's going to happen after that.
yeah,
But that's the problem is that, and another thing is just that it spreads so thin sometimes that it can
yeah,
really lose that depth. Like they're trying to base it around the Bucky, Captain America, like brother in arms kind of thing, but it's just there's just no real
that didn't really work, did it? The whole Bucky thing. It didn't feel like it was the second Captain America film. It felt like it was a third Avengers film,
yeah
completely.
it did yeah
And the whole Bucky like being framed and brainwashed as like a super soldier. So he's Hydra using him basically as like a super weapon to cause like um, terrorism basically, and people framing him to turn people against each other. I didn't really think that worked too well. It just worked as a catalyst for Captain America and Tony Stark to basically fight more. he's like, no, this is my boy. No, he's wrong, and also to get Black Panther against into the mix as well, because they used Bucky as a way of like brainwashing somebody to go and blow something up. So it was like, is he guilty? Is he not? We think he is, but we think he isn't. So then let's fight each other.
Yeah, I mean, he's always more of a catalyst than an actual character in his own right.
Yeah, he's a bit of a tool the first time and this time, but literally a tool in this time because he just doesn't do much. At least the first time it was a bit like he had the flashbacks about their friendship. Um, Actually, I keep saying second, but this is a third Captain America film, isn't it? But yeah, they had like flashback about their friendship and everything. But this time, like he just seems uninterested. I don't know if it's the actor, or if I don't know if it's the character itself, or they just haven't developed enough. But he's just like we're laughing about afterwards. He's just like just trundles his way through it. And he's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, they're trying to make it that he's like tired, disgruntled, like PTSD kind of thing. But yeah, he does just give. Instead, it's just this feeling of like, I don't really care. Like, why are you helping me?
He doesn't seem to give a shit, does he?
Yeah.
And Captain America's like going out of his way because like it's the only thing he really cares about is Bucky, and it's his link to the past, and he's always Mr. Nostalgic and doesn't really like the world that he's found himself in. He just doesn't seem to really give a shit. He doesn't appreciate whatsoever the fact that Captain America's constantly trying to save him, clear his name, all this stuff. He just mopes around with his long hair, just brushing his long hair out of his eyes, just going, whatever, dude. You again. But I do like his arm though. That's pretty cool. That doesn't get old quick. I think that's pretty cool. All it is a strong metal arm, but all the stuff they do with it is pretty.
Yeah, it's like Jax in Mortal Kombat or something, whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's. I mean, the last thing I was going to say about it from my side is that. It's the pace, really. Like it never let up, and that's what I enjoy a lot about big action films. Sometimes is that it's all these like different set pieces, and it slows down and it builds up, and it just really it felt like you're constantly on the go, kept moving.
I think they paced it well, and I think that the way they introduced characters, they drip fed them throughout the film as well. It's not like at the beginning the characters were already like sitting around because they had they were all there after the Age of Ultron, but the characters they introduced throughout the film, so like Ant-Man, Hawkeye, whoever else, War Machine, right? And then obviously Spider-Man and stuff. They peppered them in, so that helped to the pacing as well, I thought. And I thought when they brought in Ant-Man, I don't know, did you like it when the way they used Ant-Man?
I did actually. Yeah, like a bit like it,
actually, wasn't it? Yeah. At first, I thought this isn't really going to work. The way he just wakes up in the back of a van. He's like, "Oh, cool, right, I'm involved, am I?" But it was pretty funny. I thought it was like they hired Paul Rudd for like an afternoon, but they got the most out of it.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. I think they need to go for with him, rather than him being just like, one of the normal things. Just him being like one of us, kind of thing. Like looking at it, just being like,
he's the everyman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he doesn't take any of it very seriously. But the only other gripes I had, like written down the things I didn't like, were all just character stuff. Bucky was one of them because he just seemed to not really give a shit. But also Vision and Scarlet Witch, I think they were underused, and they tried to have a bit of a plot line with Scarlet Witch, and both of them actually, their relationship. But it just didn't really seem to work. It seemed like as good as with Olsen tends to be, Scarlet Witch seemed to be a bit of a third wheel in this, and it feels like they're trying to somehow contain her powers because she's almost too powerful, really. And then Vision, even more so, he's there as just like the moral, the leveler, or they're supposed to be the voice of reason or whoever. But he's just floating around and seems to be a bit of a loose end, really. So I don't know what you think about those two, but I thought they didn't really work. They didn't really fit, and they didn't really belong.
No, but in the comics, I believe that they like have a kid or something together. Like they're like a couple or something stupid. So I think they might be like leading up to that a little bit, or at least giving it like a slight wink and nod. But yeah, it was a little bit like, especially Vision. He's like this ridiculously powerful thing, but he was the kind of weirdly the comic relief.
Yeah, but it doesn't really work. And the whole time I couldn't just stop thinking, God, how how much time does it take to put on that makeup for Paul Bettany in
I was
Vision?
thinking that as well. I was
It
like,
must take like
no
five
wonder he's
hours.
wearing like shirts done up to the thing and like long sleeve things. It's
You
like,
know, he's got like a polo top and stuff on.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, it was weird that, wasn't it? It's like, oh right, cool. Vision's trying some clothes on. He's like trying to fit in, but now you've got a big red face. It's like Rimmer from Red Dwarf. It's like you're always going to look like a fucking um, like a
yeah, with a,
rubber
yeah.
head.
Oh, Crichton, you mean? Yeah.
Sorry, Crichton, not Rimmer. Yeah, Crichton. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He's always going to just look like the amount of jokes they make about what he looks like just looks like a box.
Yeah,
But yeah,
he
it's
looks a bit
similar.
Crichton-y, like when Crichton walks around like a little pinny on or something.
Yeah, dusting and
Yeah,
stuff. He's just got he's just got his square head. But yeah, it's the same because the Vision. It's almost like it's because his head has these really clear lines as well. And I just kept thinking, oh, the makeup artist to put that on is pretty good. I mean, it's amazing.
yeah,
But it's not easy. It's not like just put a mask on and then just blend it in with some little some makeup and then you're good to go. Like that is some serious like consistent red going on all over his face.
I
And
know.
then he's like his body is also part of his like clothes, like part of his uniform,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
So he has no body really, but it just looks like it's all made of like plastic or rubber.
yeah. He does. Just Plastic Boy.
And then he's got a cape and he's like floating around. It's just, oh man, it looks so fucking arduous. But like the whole effort of putting all that makeup in and just also trying to squeeze him into this plot, he doesn't really have anything to do there. So yeah, hopefully he has a bigger role, like you were saying in the Infinity War and everything. He should be a bit more pivotal, right? Because he's so
Yeah,
fucking powerful. But
yeah.
it's
He's
almost like he
key.
doesn't. It's almost like he's just a bit of a spectator. He didn't want to use his powers, or he did to help his team, but he wasn't really like
Yeah,
doing that much with it. Seeing as he could pretty much just suddenly stop everything in its path if he wanted to. Um, but yeah, it's the same as Scarlet Witch. It was just sort of this tormented, like, oh, I've got these powers coming in my hands. Ah! Almost like the whole Rogue thing in X-Men, that she's just like this uh, troubled little girl who's kind of too powerful for her own good. And they're having this angsty plot line surrounding her, but it doesn't really work. So
yeah.
that was the only really downside. All the rest of the stuff I quite liked.
Oh, that's good. Okay, well, that was Civil War. So yeah, I'd recommend that people do go out and see it whilst they can because I did thoroughly enjoy it. We both did.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I'm going to move on to the film I saw called The Call Up, which is by Charles Barker. I had a little chat with him, and here it is. Pause. Come back. So that was me chatting to Charles Barkley there. Charles Barkley.
Charles Barkley was a
Charles
basketball
Barkley
player.
played for the Chicago Bulls.
Okay, LA. Yeah,
Was
no,
it?
he played. Oh, he
Lakers.
played for. Oh, yeah, I think no, he played for the Bulls. Yeah, for a while, I think. But Lakers, I think, is when he was
All right,
famous.
let me do that again.
Like that.
I'm not going to use that. Um, so that was me speaking to Charles Barker there. Not Charles Barkley. He played for the NBA.
He was a famous basketball player in the 90s.
Yeah, maybe he did do that. Maybe he's now gone into a career as directing. But nice guy. And yeah, after seeing The Call Up, we spoke about it briefly in there. It's so. I'll just briefly tell you what it's about. It's basically these guys get called up to be. They're like top gamers, and they come in and they're put into these like VR suit things, and they get put into like a first-person shooter simulation thing, like a classic Call of Duty thing. But they actually get injured. So when they're getting shot in the thing, they're like actually getting shot. But they have, and it's all to do with the helmet they're wearing that's in their brains and stuff. But it's a little bit, it's as I said to Charles, it's a little bit like Cube. Like, as in, they don't know each other. They're all in this place. They're just kind of getting on with it. They can't get out. They're stuck having to play this game.
How long are they stuck in there?
Throughout the whole movie, pretty much. And near the end, there's something about a bomb about to get off. So that kind of, that's another thing for them to deal with. But the other thing as well is that they have a limited supply of medipacks and all this. And
Right.
also they're battling for like top score, and it's for money, um, and all this stuff. But it kind of sets itself up to be maybe a bit of a character piece.
Yeah.
Um, but the problem being is that um, as much as I enjoyed it going from like this real life to like this fantasy place, I did feel that it was quite slow at places. It could have dealt with being just mixing it up a little bit because there's only so much, um, them walking around shooting things, talking about it, walking around again, shooting things, talking about it, trying to go against each other a little bit. That you can take before when you get to like the 90-minute mark, you're a bit
Mm,
like, I feel like I don't want to just keep seeing the same thing again and again.
yeah.
I'm probably doing it a disservice saying that.
I mean, it's quite high concept, really. For a
Yeah, it's
is
very
it
high
relative?
concept.
Is it relative? Like, what's the budget like? Is it low budget or is he?
Yeah, so it's a low budget. The guy
Yeah.
Charles, as you probably could tell when you listen to him, is British. He did
Mm,
commercials, and it is fairly low budget for films these days, but it looks good. Like it looks great. The visual effects are good, um, and it's definitely an interesting idea, and it's good fun to watch. I feel like maybe had he been given a bit more money to maybe do a bit more in the middle bit, because that's just kind of where it sags, unfortunately.
right.
Then maybe could have done a bit more with it. But for what it is, I mean, it's decent. It's
Did
decent enough.
Yeah, well, often with directors, that's usually the way, isn't it? They do what they can with the budget and the resources they've got, and then hopefully next time he'll be given a bigger budget. He'll have a few more backers behind it, and he'll have probably a bit more resources and finance to try and make something um, bigger and better. So
Yeah,
could be,
I mean, and it is like one of my favorite genres, same as you, I believe, like
mm,
sci-fi horror
yeah,
kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah,
It's definitely like down that route a little bit, and I enjoy stuff like Cube and these like almost like Twilight Zone episodes. But
yeah,
that's kind of how I felt like it should be, like a Twilight Zone
yeah,
or like a short film or something. It just
yeah.
felt like in 90 minutes it dragged a little bit, but not to take anything away from the fact that it was it was still an enjoyable watch. I wasn't bored or anything like that at any point. The acting was good for the most part. I
Right.
enjoyed the different characters and stuff. There may have been maybe perhaps too many characters. Um, it might have been better had it been like five or something like that. I felt like there was only like seven or eight, but that's quite a lot, and they're all like in the same place and doing the same thing pretty much the whole time. Like the two girls, for instance, the two white girls. Oh, I don't think there is a black girl. I think the only two girls are white. But they look. My point being is that they look very similar, and I would get confused about who was who because they're wearing the same thing. They're
Right.
both petite,
Do,
both the
do,
same age.
does it develop? Does it kind of develop the characters well enough? Do you feel like you can relate to them, or is it more like these guys are random and they're thrown into this situation, or does it like gradually give them some sort of like background?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. They talk about their background a bit, but you start off with one of the guys,
Yeah,
and that's the thing. You do keep with them a little bit, but not properly. And so
yeah,
when it all kind of comes to a head at the end, you don't feel like you have that emotional investment in any which character um,
right.
enough to actually care that much. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Check
Yeah,
it out.
you gotta care. You
Yeah,
gotta care.
it's going to be out soon for everyone else to watch. It's on cinemas and be released digitally to download on 23rd of May. And I think it's in cinemas 20th of May. Um, so yeah, if you like it, go see it. I can't say it's one of my favorite sci-fi films, but it was a decent enough effort, and look forward to seeing what kind of stuff he comes up with in the future.
Nice, nice.
Which brings us on to another strange
Yeah,
sci-fi horror
quite a
film.
nice segue, really.
Yeah, which was 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I believe you just watched last night, if that's
Yeah, I
correct.
just watched it yesterday, so it's interesting, really, talking to you about the
The call up.
director
Yeah.
of a short film, or yeah, call up like director of a short film or a lower budget sci-fi film, and then giving the opportunity to go big and do something a bit more bigger with a bigger budget. So this is the 10 Cloverfield Lane is a typical example of that because the director, what's his name again? Dan Trachtenberg.
Yeah.
He directed the short film Portal No Escape. Did you see that?
No. I felt
Because
like I
I
did,
haven't
but
seen it,
I
and
haven't.
well, it's based on the computer game,
Yeah.
isn't it? I think Portal, which is a great, really inventive computer game with really kind of really original physics, wasn't it?
Yes.
About shooting a little hole in a wall, and then gravity kind of doing the rest of the work, and you kind of throw something through the wall, the hole, whether it's you or an object, and then it will appear in another room. But that the hole in the other room could be on the ceiling, for example. So you throw like, I don't know, a ball into a hole, and then in the next room, the hole will be in the ceiling, so then it'll fall straight down rather than across. And
Yeah.
then it was this whole game of physics and puzzles, wasn't it, to try and get through all these different rooms by using just a gun that shoots a portal hole in the wall.
That's right. I mean, it's literally it's just a puzzle thing. I'm just
Yeah,
watching now actually this short film, and I have actually seen it. I did. I
yeah.
thought I might have,
So,
but yeah, I have. Um,
so it's based on that, isn't it? And well, it went down really well. So he's gone from making the short film on based on a computer game into a feature film produced with J.J. Abrams backing, with a it's hard to say that it's associated with Cloverfield, the monster invasion film that everyone seemed to love.
yeah,
But to say that it is it's a sequel or prequel or something, that's the ambiguity, isn't it? No one really knows. But it's supposed to be in the same universe or within the same type of group, isn't it? As Cloverfield. So there are little nods to it, but no one really knows of how closely related this film is supposed to be.
yeah,
But for a first time director, I thought for feature film, I thought he did really well. But yeah, do you want to just give a quick synopsis before
yeah. So
we go into
I can't remember the girl that's in it. What's her name?
it?
That's what really hard listening
Mary
for front of me.
Winstead,
That's right.
Elizabeth Winstead.
Oh, yeah, Mary Elizabeth. So she is just she's having problems with her boyfriend. Whatever. She's just
Yeah,
driving along. Smash. A bit like Misery.
yeah,
She
it's
kind of
really
wakes up.
a lot of similarities though.
Yeah, she wakes up and she's like in a bunker. John Goodman's there going, "Yo, world's dead outside, bitch."
Yeah,
And she's like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" So she's a bit like, "I don't trust this guy," but
mm.
he's like being all like a bit nicey nice, but obviously he's just some big fucking weirdo. And there's this other guy,
Yeah, but he's very like passive aggressive, isn't
yeah,
he?
completely passive
Um,
aggressive.
uh,
And there's this other guy who's I saw him in another film called Hush the other day actually,
mm.
and he's like some idiot. It's just like I don't know. Like he tells me I trust him.
Yeah, it's just like I just kind of happen to be here, you know.
Yeah, I know it wasn't because he said. Oh, well, I won't ruin it because we're
Well,
talking
I
about
don't.
too much of spoilers.
I know, but we're kind of going to have to go and spoiler
I know, but
territory, aren't we?
let's do
Shall
that
we?
towards the end. Let's try not to spoil
Okay,
it too
okay.
much. Um,
Yeah,
and that's basically it. So she's like, she kind of some stuff's going on outside. She's not sure who she can trust, and she's trapped in this bunker. And that's
mm.
basically the premise. Everyone's starting to get on each other's tits a little bit, and she starts finding out a bit more about like the other guys that are, in there, and
Yeah.
their backgrounds and
You
stuff.
don't really know. That's the whole film itself is very ambiguous as well as the characters, aren't they? So it's totally. It's just the whole thing is contained in this little bunker. It's very claustrophobic. There's only a couple of rooms down there, and like you said, she wakes up. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. All you really know about her is this like very dreamy sequence at the very beginning that she may have had an argument with a boyfriend, but that's about it, right?
Yeah,
There's no real dialogue until she's down there, and then, like you said, that she doesn't know whether to trust them. She doesn't really know that if anyone has a motive or an agenda, or if John Goodman is just like a paranoid um,
schizophrenic or
weirdo
something.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, who's just like who's genuinely trying to save them all from the outside world, or if he's just making it up because little clues start being dropped about that he could just be a kidnapper, he could just be an abductor, and he may have done it in the past. So he maybe have this fixation, this obsession with people in the past who he may have abducted, and that's why he has this bunker. So then you start thinking, is there really anything wrong outside? Is this just a like a kidnap horror, you know? And the other guy's just thrown in for good measure, really, just to to balance it out a bit, because he doesn't really do a huge amount, but he's like in between. He's like, you know, I basically tried to get in here. He helped me out because I'm in here. So you don't really know whether to trust him, but you think, okay, this guy seems legit. He seems normal, and he seems to be believable. There's something else going on outside. There's a virus or apocalypse or an invasion or something bad going outside. You actually, after about half an hour, you start to relax, don't you, a little bit? And I like the way the tone changes. This is one of the things I liked about the film, the way it kind of switches genres massively at the end, obviously, which we'll talk about in a second. But even throughout the 90% of the film, which is set in the bunker, you think maybe it's going to go horror, then you think, oh right, it's actually quite lighthearted, and then they start playing music and they get on with each other and they have dinner, and then it's quite bizarre, isn't it, the way he plays around with like the tone keeps changing.
Yeah.
And you're not really sure what's going on, but you almost relax into it in the middle, and then it starts cranking it up again, and you start thinking, okay, you know, there's people are going to die, surely something bad's going to happen. And then it's just a film of two parts, isn't it? About 90% of it is in the bunker, and then the other 10% of it is crazy, basically.
Yeah, it's mad. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was the tone of the entire thing was great, amazing. Just the way it was edited, but the characters, especially John Goodman, who really like pulls out the bag with this one, just really like making you feel one way and then another, like you love him, then you hate him. And also like
the way he like dances, it suddenly just starts dancing. He, like you said, he's schizophrenic, basically.
Yeah, and the script also as well. Like, it's very the words aren't just chosen because they feel natural or whatever. It's trying to move plot along. The words and the specific phrasing that is used is very, very, very thought about. I mean, every script is thought about, obviously, but with this, it's very much like what's not being said, how how everyone's referring to things, and all this stuff. There's an interesting. So after I saw the film, and we'll talk about the ending in a bit, I think I read an article on, I want to say the New Yorker. Maybe was it New Yorker? I can't remember, or maybe it's a Hollywood. I'm pretty sure it's New Yorker, where they say the whole film is basically a metaphor for domestic abuse.
Yeah,
John Goodman's character is a classic domestic abuse person, abuser, in terms of they follow like certain pathological behavior patterns, all this stuff, and he exemplifies that consistently throughout the film. And she gives examples, and it's really, really interesting. And also, it kind of explains the end, because when I first watched it, well, I've only seen it once actually. When I watched it, I really didn't like the ending, and I'd be interested to see what you think in a second.
Really? Okay.
But I was like, I don't like it, and then I was like, I don't really understand how this fits. I don't really understand how this film fits into the Cloverfield world. Like, why is it a Cloverfield film at all? Like, why not just make it something completely different then? In fact, right, you're giving and we'll approach this now, so we're about to get a little bit spoilery. But the fact that it's called, we've had to go there. We're literally looking down the road of it. The fact that it's called 10 Cloverfield Lane preempts the fact of what is of the end anyway, of what you're expecting, because you know what happens in Cloverfield. So let's talk about it. Let's go into the ending. So
yeah, we've covered everything else.
Spoilers. Skip. Or just
you want to skip a good probably 10 to 15 minutes, I think.
Please don't take that long. Just
I think we're going
to some sort.
Okay, 5 to 10 minutes, but yeah, let's skip 5 to 10 minutes until the end when we say goodbye.
Yeah,
or just stop listening.
And it was great talking to you. So,
yeah, because we'll talk about the last part of 10 Cloverfield Lane, and because the film it just completely flips the switch and turns into something completely different. It's only 10 minutes, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the last 10 minutes. So let's just say it basically turns into like a monster movie. She gets out. the alien. I hope you guys have seen this, or if you're paying attention. Otherwise, you'd be saying,
Like, only
huh?
listen to this if you've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. She gets out, and there's a big fucking alien, and then loads of like it becomes like an action thing, and like the car explodes in its mouth, and all this. It just goes off on one. But to that point, it felt very
Yeah.
real, very grounded, and then all of a sudden, you're like in a fucking alien spaceship. Um,
Yeah. It's amazing.
so you liked it?
It's well, amazing. It's not in the sense good or bad amazing. It literally is just it amazes you when you watch that, especially because there was no hint whatsoever that it would go apart from the name of the film
Yeah.
and some of the promotion, which was all just like tease, tease, hint, hint, that it had something to do with Cloverfield. The fact, all it is really is that word Cloverfield, which doesn't really mean a huge amount anyway.
Well, funny enough, I'll just quickly say that the poster for it in somewhere in Asia, I want to say Korea,
Mm.
actually gives away the end of the film. The poster.
Oh, really?
It's her running through a field with a house and a big alien over the top of her.
That's amazing. I'll
Yeah.
have to put it down.
Google it afterwards. Yeah, they just give away the entire film. Apparently, people over
Oh,
there
Jesus.
complained because they were like, they came out
You would,
going,
because you would
well,
know.
that ending was obviously supposed to be a
Yeah.
surprise. And we knew what
To
would happen.
expect, because the tone of the film leading up to the end, it's not just like it's an eerie sense and it's unnerving and you know something's going to happen and you know something bad's going to happen to the end and it's going to become bigger. You don't really know that because they talk about like they're drinking like vintage with it, like listening to vintage music, and
Yeah.
they're like talking about like the foods that they've got and the last remaining supplies and all this very mundane stuff, and you really think that it could just turn into this like bit of a nasty ending where someone has to stab someone else and run away from them and that's pretty much it, and then she gets out and you expect it to be like, it was, nothing was bad up here, it was all fine. That's what you'd expect if it had no association with Cloverfield, that she would just escape and it was all just in John Goodman's crazy head. But when, like you said, when she gets out, it's this massive crazy sci-fi, it suddenly turns into sci-fi invasion, monster invasion, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where there's like a big spaceship floating around and then there's this weird but very cool like alien dog thing, like a metallic slash ugly toothy alien dog thing, which is like running around in this cornfield nearby, and then she gets chased around by it, and loads of stuff happens to her in the last 10 minutes where she's running around, runs to like a truck, has to close the door, then runs again, and then you think she's going to die, and then somehow she doesn't, and then she escapes. It just felt like the guy had been given $1 million to make the film, then he's like, right, okay, I'll spend $50,000 to make 90% of it, and the rest of it's just going to go on the end just to blow people's butts off.
Yeah.
And usually that comes across as really like forced, and sometimes it doesn't really work. You think, oh, okay, this guy just waited right to the end to use the budget. And an example recently, which I won't go into too much, is Midnight Special. Right, a few weeks ago.
No, I haven't seen it yet. No.
With Michael Shannon. That film also, it was like a sci-fi, but it was just really long and drawn out, and it was basically boring. And it was Michael Shannon trying to get his kid somewhere because the kid had special powers, and that whole time you know that something big's going to happen towards the end. It was a bit more like Close Encounters of the Third Kind of thing, where you know there's going to be some sort of like alien contact towards the end of the film, but it gets really drawn out, and Michael Shannon is not a lead man, and it just gets quite boring. And then towards the end, it's like, all right, okay, the last 5 minutes, all right, this is where you spent your budget, and then you just finally wake up from the coma you've been in. But with this film, it didn't feel like that. It felt like when the crazy stuff at the end happened, I thought, oh wow, this is great. He's just like massively twisting it. You didn't expect it to happen, which I thought was really cool. But how it all fits into Cloverfield, I still don't know. I still don't know if they know, really. I don't know if there's a plan or if it's all going to become clear later on when there's more films, because I think they're going to make more, or if it's just one massive tease, one big, like, hey, this has got something to do with Cloverfield, but fuck knows if we know, but whatever, let's just have some fun.
No, I'm happy.
I liked the ending.
Yeah, okay. Well, fair enough. I mean, like, I would like it if they do different Cloverfield films, not necessarily following on the same narrative. I think that would work, because otherwise, what they're going to 10, 11 Cloverfield Lane or something, and it's like, What, she's just
Why? Yeah,
continuing.
why is it 10 Cloverfield Lane? And why is it called? Why is it even Cloverfield Lane?
I don't know. It's just the whole thing's really weird. But so the thing I was reading about it being about domestic abuse. So the reason why she
Yeah,
gives about that ending is the idea that even if you leave, because it's hinted at the beginning of the film as well when she's speaking to her boyfriend, like, hey, mate, we only
yeah,
had one argument,
yeah, exactly.
and he sounds like a bit of a douche anyway. What a douche! And
That is, yeah. Who plays the boyfriend?
I don't know.
It is. Oh man, I have to look up. So I read it last night, and I never. You never think it. You don't even know that he's Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper
Shit,
plays the
really?
boyfriend. Yeah, but he's barely in it. He's like in it for a split second. It's just a voice, though, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's just the voice at the beginning. That's pretty cool though. Love, I do love Bradley Cooper. Apparently, he smells. Um,
What? His dick, or
his
just
dick
in
smells.
general?
His dick's a bit smelly. I think in general, yeah. Um, so I hear. Uh, and yeah, so what she
It's
says, we'll go enough for one.
just like completely unfounded, but still smells.
It's a bit stinky. Um, it's that when you leave your partner, you you think that it's all over, but it's actually not. So it's that idea of like basically like, yeah, PTSD kind of thing,
Yeah,
whereby it doesn't just end at the door. Like you have to carry that with you with your life, and that's when the real battle begins. Well, not the real battle, but in terms of
yeah,
like that's where the battle continues. Is that when you leave a violent relationship, you've got to tackle those demons. So, hence,
yeah, and how you're going to relate to other people afterwards.
yeah. So there's
I
a bit
assume.
where she's looking at the crossroads, like which way do I go,
Yeah,
and all this, left or right, and there's that idea of like where you can go like for help or something or whatever it is,
mhm,
or you can help us fight, and she chooses to fight, and so that's her making an active decision that she's gonna like uh, fight basically
which is good.
against her
Yeah,
oppressor.
because she's been a victim the whole film,
Yes, exactly. So
and
that's
then
it. She's
suddenly
standing
like
up.
standing up, doing something for herself.
Yeah,
Um, that whole choice thing, the crossroads at the end, that really got me. I didn't expect that at all. I thought, I thought something's going to happen here. It can't just the film can't all be set in a bunker, and something crazy will happen at the end. But for her character development, that's something that really surprised me, and that's what I really liked. Actually, it all being really from her perspective, and she could have, like you said, like she could have just been this victim. She could have just been trying to escape the whole time, but keep on failing. But her character grew really, really quickly at the end, obviously, but I thought they developed it really well. And also just like the whole B movie feel of it.
yeah, it's
And
good.
it reminded me of, yeah, I just like films that they just completely shock you at the end, like The Mist, which is a
Yeah,
film I always bang on about as one of my favorite um, B movie type films. It's by Frank Darabont back in, God, it must have been early 2000 now.
mm.
Um, the way that again is quite contained. There's a lot more characters in it though, and it's a bit more kind of Walking Dead-y style. That there's a few like cliched characters flipping out all over the place. They don't know what's going on outside
Literally
this.
half the cast are in The Walking Dead.
Yeah, yeah, they probably are, aren't they? Yeah, about they're stuck in a supermarket or whatever, and they don't really know what's going on outside, but there's monsters and everything. And at the end, there's just this massive, big, crazy revelation, and it's just very oppressive and depressing and just nihilistic. And you think, fucking hell, this has all been going on outside all this time. How is anyone going to survive this? And it reminded me of that, even though it was a lot more like in your face, actiony at the end of 10 Cloverfield Lane. But still, I just love the way when um, the whole film is set is told from the perspective of this tiny little story going on, especially in this film. It was like a tiny little story under the ground, and
Yeah,
then it's like bam, this has all been happening outside, like a computer game where you just get to the next level and it's like new world.
hmm.
um, and I really liked that, and I thought that it could have easily come across as just a cheap like sensationalist kind of action set piece at the end, just to go, and then the film is all about this, bam. But I thought they did it really well, because you just forgot about all the stuff in the bunker, and suddenly it was like, fuck, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's
and
interesting.
yeah, just
Sorry.
no, and it also because it has this association with Cloverfield. If this was just a standalone film, again, like if it's like a Monsters, the Gareth Edwards, right? Gareth Edwards
Hmm.
film, or
Yeah,
a standalone independent film, you'd think, okay, right, they just went crazy at the end to just have some impact, just so you could remember the film. But because it was this Abrams tied up with Cloverfield, it just has more mystique to it, doesn't it? It just makes you think, oh shit, there's more to this story. And I quite like that sometimes, that you don't have to wrap everything up, because Hollywood has such a way of like, oh no, you need to link these films to each other. And we've been talking about Marvel all night. You have to be able to like link all these films and make sure that people are going to come and book their tickets for the next one. But with this, I like it the way it's all very ambiguous and just like, whatever, man, whatever could happen, and that's it. So it's quite refreshing.
I just didn't want it to be a Cloverfield film. If it would have ended with an alien thing and not been Cloverfield, I don't know. I might have been more alright with it. I don't know. I just felt like it was a really solid film.
Yeah.
And then,
until then.
yeah, when the aliens came, I was just like, oh god. Like,
well, they didn't have much relevance to the big alien in Cloverfield, did they?
Well, no. Well, as in,
well, who knows, but
yeah, I mean, it's there the whole time, and at least that's just basically Godzilla. That's all that film is, really. But
Cloverfield, yeah, because it's one massive. But then is this before that, or is this supposed to be afterwards, when the whole thing has happened in New York, and then this is because this is out in the sticks, really, isn't it? This was like out in the suburbs or out on the farm. So is this all happening at the same time? And I think it's quite cool because I like Cloverfield. If I didn't like Cloverfield, I thought it was shit, then it'd be like, oh, why are you just flogging a dead horse? Why are you bringing that up again? Because I really liked it, and I liked the whole like the found footage thing they did. I just thought it was a brilliant film. That it reminded me of that, it made me want to go back and watch it, and it just made me think, oh right, that sometimes, especially sci-fi films like Independence Day or something like that, where you see this crazy stuff happen, but you don't think of what else is happening in the surrounding areas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I quite like, that idea of like, oh, all that shit was happening in New York, but oh yeah, so all these other little things were happening around America or around the world as well. There was like these other little aliens and these other spaceships floating around. So if they do link it up and they turn it into a franchise, I think it could be interesting. I'll definitely keep watching.
Yeah, I mean, overall, like, even if, with or without the ending, like, even if I hated the ending more than anything, I didn't hate it that much. But even if I did, I still don't think it impacted how I felt about the rest of the film enough for me to, not recommend it. I really did enjoy it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
cool.
I would recommend it as well.
Okay, well, that's it. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. You can email us at soggypopcornteam@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at soggypopcorn. And that's it.
Yeah, I reckon we'll probably have to drag ourselves to go and watch X-Men, right?
Yeah, it's right? At some point, right, guys?
Why does it feel like such a chore?
I really can't be bothered. Age of Apocalypse or whatever.
I know. The only thing I'm slightly intrigued about is to see how Oscar Isaac is as Apocalypse and how they even treat that character.
Yeah, I feel like he filmed it like 7 years ago, and now he's like releasing it.
Now he's probably like embarrassed about it. Like, really, I'm in Star Wars, for God's sake. I just want to know that if Bryan Singer just seems to have like forgotten that he's made this film before 15 years ago, that he's doing it again. There's anything I'm like intrigued about, but it's just everything seems so lame. I just don't know if I can even be bothered to watch it, but we should talk about it.
Yeah, and I've got so much other films as well that we need to talk about. But
TV, bro, loads of TV as well.
Yeah, tons of TV.
Game of Thrones. We haven't even talked about that. Let's talk about that next week.
Yeah,
there's lots to talk about. A hell of a lot to talk about with that.
Yeah, lots and lots. Okay, but that's it for the moment. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
See you then, guys. Bye. See ya.
Stop that. And stop.